This is the Lichtman Live Post Show, the greatest post show that's ever existed on the face of planet Earth. I'm your host. I'm your guide. Sam Lichtman, Sammy Licht, Slam, whatever you like to call me. Taco Trump, baby. What is with Sam and the tacos on the live? You're not in on the joke, Raul? Taco, the new term taco. It means Trump always caves. What's the O? Now I'm blanking on it. Trump always caves. I'm blank. No, Trump always chickens out. That's what it is. Yeah. So, wow, my brain just went blank there. Yeah. I thought, I'd come in, eat a little taco, rub it in his face a little bit, have a little laugh. Good to see you, Michael Nightwolf. Abe, we are live. Yeah, chicken's out. My brain was just, whoo-hoo. It was just not there for a second. Dems maybe should stop listening to the pundits' advice because they perhaps fell for their trap of kicking Biden out in 24. Also, CNN shouldn't have hosted the 24 debates before the conventions. That's an interesting point about having the debate before the conventions. I don't know. Is that like something that usually doesn't happen or what? In Your Face New Yorker says, tell your dad thanks for the shout out. I will. Tacos in the chat, everybody. Everybody spam tacos in the chat right now. Dennis. How are you doing, Dennis? Haven't seen you in a while. Did that taco you were eating tonight have chicken in it? No, I believe it was a barbacoa taco. Chicken taco, unless it's shredded chicken, I feel like tacos or chicken and tacos is a little. Well, diced chicken is okay too. Debates are usually after Labor Day, if memory serves right. Interesting. I love all the tacos in the chat right now. Here's where the taco was. If you care. Maybe you don't. Soft or hard shell? I usually go soft. I'm usually a soft taco fan. But every once in a while, I will crave a hard taco shell. Have I ever had a Trump steak? I have never had a Trump steak. Diego says, I'm more of an empanada guy myself. I'm more of a burrito guy. I mean, if I'm going to, a fast food Mexican place, I'm always going a burrito first. The Gale says, people report the Alan Lichtman definition on Urban Dictionary. Yeah, what a stupid definition. I do fear I shouldn't have read that to my dad because since the election and since all the attacks on him, it seems like it's starting to hit him personally. And as I was reading that, I was kind of like, oh, this isn't that bad. And then the very end, with the hit him hard. I missed the Harvarded thing. I think it just meant like, my dad was like, you're going to get Harvarded, as in attacked, someone powerful is going to come after you, as in Trump going after Harvard. Do I think it's going to become big? Probably not. But you never know. All right, now I'm too high. I'm trying to get the right height for this. That's better. My hair went whoa, whoa, whoa. My hair's a little wild right now, too. Have you tried Taco Bamba? I think so. Yes, I believe I've had Taco Bamba. It's good. The best tacos, honestly, I've had in New York was in the U.S. was a taco truck in New York. And I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn for a little bit, and on Bedford Ave, I forgot what the cross street was. On Bedford Ave, there was a taco truck, and man, those were the best tacos I've had in the States. Probably the best tacos I've had, because either Mexico or the States are going to have the best one. Why was Trump going after Harvard just for accepting foreign students? He's just trying to do as much damage to Harvard as possible. And it just aligns with his anti-immigrant, America First agenda to go after foreign students. What is going on with my microphone right now? That should be better. To be Harvarded shouldn't be a thing unless it means to graduate from an elite school. What the French, toast? Come on. Sorry, folks. Dennis, thank you for your donation. Support Sam and your local taco trucks. That's a fact. God dang it. Honest, you know what? You want to know the honest to God truth? I didn't have a ton of great tacos in LA. I went to like chain taco places a lot, and I kept meaning to like stop at the sort of in LA, like on the side of the road, there's a lot of little taco stands. I never got to one for some reason. And like someone sent me to some taco chain in LA. I forgot what it was called. It was so mid. What was that taco chain called? Dude, what is happening with my mic? Let me see if I can find it. It was on Santa Monica Boulevard. I think. Guisados. Not very good. Hello, Patrick Murray. How do I become a Lichtman Live member? I think you have to do it from a laptop or a computer. I don't think you can do it from your phone. So if you go on your laptop, you can. There should, just from the channel homepage, there should be a join button there. If you click that, you can become a member. Why does my hair look so weird? Why did nobody tell me? Christine S. says, anti-immigrant is not America First. This country is made up of immigrants. I agree. I'm just saying they framed it as anti-immigrant America First in their own construction of their own political ideology. I'm not saying it's true or false. I'm not saying that's true. Administration is pulling FBI off cybersecurity for deportations. 100% think it's because of the taco thing. That's pretty whiny. That's that petty whiny bitch. Sam, you get more impressions on X or Blue Sky? I don't have an X anymore. I haven't been on X in a long time. Have you considered combing your hair slick back like this? Something like this? Not really. Too much work. I'm too lazy to do that. I just kind of let my hair do whatever it wants to do. Good evening, Joe Star. Emily says, a university student should never be abducted off the street for writing an op-ed article like, hopefully I say her name right, Rumesa Ozturk of Tufts. The Trump regime is way out of line. I totally agree with you, Emily. I completely and totally agree with you. Michael Nightwolf says, I love your hair. Nice style. Okay. Abe says, that looks cool, Sam. You should slick it back. Suzanne says, Sam is very intelligent, good person. Wow, Suzanne. Thank you. You're very nice. Twitter is where dreams go to complain the homecoming queen won't go out with me. Twitter is just turned into a cesspool, essentially. IMO. That stands for in my opinion. Bring your dog on the live stream. He's outside with my pops right now, so Fortunately, he won't be here. Have you heard of Expedition 33? I have no idea what that means, good sir. Disinformation drives apathy by calling into question the legitimacy of the government. And when people are apathetic, they lose faith in democracy, even if they may not like or want a dictator. You're a smart guy, President Khalidi. You're a smart guy. Philip H. says, Sam, I found a new cheat for GeoGuessr. Tell me. I haven't played GeoGuessr in a while, but I'm always trying to get better at GeoGuessr. Hello, trolls. How are you, good sir? Expedition 33 is going to be game of the year. Oh, so it's a game, so I should check it out, is what you're saying. Gotcha. What are your thoughts on the pardons on NBA YoungBoy and Larry Hoover? I'm going to be honest with you, Cam. I didn't even know that they were pardoned. I know who they are. Larry Hoover is like the big drug pin from Chicago, and NBA YoungBoy is a rapper. I didn't even know NBA YoungBoy was in trouble, to be honest with you. Kara Swisher calls Twitter a Nazi porn bar. Oh my God. RG, nice to have you. So you guys are saying I should play Expedition 33. Is that what you're saying? I'm not following what you're saying about Gemini AI, Philip H. Unfortunately. How many people we got watching? 156 people watching, only 43 likes. Let's get those likes up, folks. My good people. Suzanne says, I went to a local Democratic meeting on Tuesday. We are now the Texas Progressive Democratic Party. Okay. I feels you. That's cool. That's awesome. Oh, you're saying, Philip, you're saying use deepthink AI to cheat in GeoGuessr? I'm not cheating in GeoGuessr. I'm a man of integrity, Philip. How dare you even think for a second that I might cheat at GeoGuessr? Thank you, Michael, for liking my live. How often do you go out to bars to get wasted? Well, trolls, I haven't had a drink since January 1st, 2015. So does that answer your question? Once in the last 10 years. MAGA logic equals being an anti-immigrant while living in a nation of immigrants. You're not wrong. Your logic isn't wrong. But unfortunately, they don't see themselves as immigrants. Like the people who are MAGA, they don't see themselves as being part of an immigrant nation. They see themselves as American, not as immigrants. Even if they're even second generation, I don't even think they see themselves as part of an immigrant nation. John Rogers says, I'm so glad Musk tucked tail and ran. If he'd been paying attention, he'd realized Trump ruins everything and everyone he comes in contact with. You're not immune, Musk. I agree with you, John. I completely agree with you. And it's like, he's so up in arms now that he didn't save the money he thought he was going to save. It's like, bro, again, it's like, I have no sympathy for people who supported Trump and are now clutching their pearls about him. We know exactly how Trump is going to operate. He's not subtle with his own voice, and his actions are also not subtle. So this idea that Elon thought Trump was going to come in and be some, real fiscal conservative, it's laughable. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships, John. I appreciate that. Sam, have you seen the new Tesla odometer? As you go faster, Elon's arm gets higher. Diego, you're a funny guy, huh? Thank you, John Rogers, again. Sam, do you think Trump turning on Leonard Leo is promising, and that these fools might just eat themselves? I'm not going to... You have a point, but I'm not going to hold my breath about it. Let's just say that, People have been speculating that the Republican Party was going to eat itself, and it hasn't yet. So I'm not super optimistic about that. Troll says the only thing you and Trump have in common is the no drinking thing. Well, I have drank. I don't think Trump has ever drank. I used to drink. I no longer drink. So I have nothing in common with Trump. Nothing. Okay? Not a goddamn thing. I just want to give a shout out to your t-shirt, Sam. My favorite color is nice. It's also it's of a favorite band of mine called Middle Kids. If you haven't listened to Middle Kids, I highly suggest it. Very good band. Sam, what's keeping you hopeful about America? What's keeping me hopeful about America is that we are still an incredibly well-structured, well-thought-out democracy. And yes, there are cracks that bad actors can sliver into, but I believe that the structure itself will hold, and eventually, once those bad actors get sprayed out of those cracks, we'll be back to normal. Reed says, I believe Elon Musk deserves a second chance. At least Elon Musk won't vote for J.D. Vance in 28. I mean, I fundamentally believe that, people deserve a second chance. And look, if he wants to use the rest of his life and the rest of his money to do as much good as humanly possible, go for it, Elon. Philip H. says, we still have one branch holding the floodgates. That's the hope. Yeah. Jason says, not sure who came up with this today, but it was a good one. Quote, after getting called taco, Trump always chickens out on his tariffs. I want Trump to be impeached just so we can call him Nacho President. That's pretty good. Sam, do you think Harris running for governor might be a distraction the Dems don't need? Why would her running for governor be a distraction? I don't understand that. Elon Musk is not using his money to do good. Well, then F him. I mean, right now, I'm full on F Elon Musk. Don't get me wrong. And if he keeps doing bullshit, that's not going to change. The Trump and party approval polls are everywhere, and I can't handle it. Just don't get too bogged down in polling. Vladimir says, I say Elon should spend $100 million plus to help Kamala Harris or the Dems win in 28. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, never say never, I guess, but I don't see that happening. And I don't even see that as necessarily the best use of his money. I mean, if you look at somebody like Bill Gates, sure, he does donate to political stuff, but a lot of what he's done good in the world are through his own ventures with his own money. Hello, Heather Grass. Thank you. How are you? I'm good. How are you? Thank you for your $20 donation. How much did foreign adversaries contribute to interfering in the 2024 election? Good question. If you can figure that out, you'll be a very famous man, President Khalidi. I don't know if anybody has that answer. And we're certainly not going to get it from Kash Patel's FBI. If there is something you can admire about Trump, what would it be? His undeniable luck, perhaps? It seems to me like he really does love his children and his grandchildren. So I admire that about him. In 20 years, do you think Trumpites will reflect and feel foolish? At this point, Trump is legit like a big crybaby. No, I don't think 20 years is going to be enough time. I don't think people who are MAGA will ever back down from Trump as long as they live. I really don't. Why would Musk want to help the Dems? Putting Taco in the White House. He's got so many contracts and all the investigations canceled. Do you think he wants the Dems to undo that? No, I agree with you. I don't think he wants to help the Dems at all. Thank you, everybody. Sam, I hear some people are saying that if Harris runs for governor, it will help Republicans fundraise. That's just an overanalyzation. I don't think Harris running for governor is going to have an effect on national elections one way or the other. Do you think the Republicans will be Trumpian long after Trump is gone? For a while. Yeah, for a decade at least, I would say. Say that's such a nasty question in a Trump voice. I can't really do Trump. Trump has fired some of his supporters. That's true. PMG says, rather vote the current LTG than Harris. What's the current LTG? The current LTG? Long-term. What is stuck to my foot? Oh, Lieutenant Governor. Gotcha. LTG is Lieutenant Governor. Makes sense. I don't know. I'm just not that invested in what Kamala Harris does next. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really care that much. And I think any decision she makes, if she runs for governor, if she runs for president again, she'll either win or lose, and the whole world will just move on. It's not that big of a deal. And if she runs for president, she's going to have primary fights. So it's not like she's going to be anointed again, even if she does get the nomination, which she very well might not, Michael Nightwolf says Harris and Biden should just accept their one term and move along. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. I like Harris, but it'll take a while to forgive her for just going silent after the election. I don't blame candidates for going silent after elections. Elections are freaking hard, and they take a toll on you. And sometimes you just need to disappear for a while afterwards. Who of the most recent U.S. presidents do you believe are genuinely good people? If any, my pick is Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Definitely Jimmy Carter. Obama seems like a genuinely good person. I think Joe Biden does too. W. Bush is confusing because he seems like a genuinely good person, but his actions in office were so heinous, it's hard to say that he's a good person. Judy says, I honestly don't want to see Harris run again, not because I don't believe in her, but because I just don't think she can win. I hear that. Michael Nightwolf says, we need new representation in 2028, not the same old crap. I agree with you. I fundamentally agree with you, Michael. Kyle says, I like Harris, but AOC feels like the most appropriate choice for the time and circumstances. I would personally prefer AOC. Blaze says, I think John McCain was a really good guy, but he wasn't a president. John Rogers says, I've come to the conclusion that the hardcore MAGAs have already drank the Kool-Aid, spiked with ignorance, and are well on their way over the cliffs with the rest of the lemmings. Yeah. What if Bernie was 10 years younger? Then I would support him. Nixon made a comeback. I wouldn't necessarily doubt Harris could do the same. Yeah, so did Biden. I mean, Biden didn't win the presidency until his third try. Sam, totally unrelated, but are you into bodybuilding? Slightly, I would say. Slightly into bodybuilding. Not really bodybuilding, but weightlifting. I don't really care, about, my biceps being X inches and my chest. I just kind of like lifting weights. AOC equals Bernie 2.0? Could be. One big issue. Bernie's white and a man. But he is Jewish. So, I don't know. Julian says, I'd support Bernie if he were 100 years old. I mean, I support Bernie. I just don't know if it's the best decision to have him as our president when he's, the age that he is. And don't get me wrong, if he was the Democratic nominee, I would be extremely happy to vote for him over anyone that I believe the Republicans will put forth. Abe says that they are for Senator Ocasio-Cortez. At least Bernie is coherent at his age. No doubt, that man is still on his shit. There's no doubt. Ah! It's hard to imagine who would be AOC's most natural running mate. Yeah, that is a hard thing to imagine. Normal people had no choice but to vote for Trump. The average person suffered under the Biden administration. How did the average person suffer under the Biden administration? Other than inflation rising, which was tampered down pretty effing well by that administration, how would you say that people suffered under the Biden administration? I don't buy that. If you could say anything, people suffered under the first Trump administration. 1 million freaking people died of COVID. If that's not suffering, I don't know what is. Diva says you have to remember a better portion of hardcore MAGA were QAnon before Trump. That is a scary thought. But I'm pretty sure QAnon came after Trump. Or am I tripping? Knicks are about to win. What's the score? $109-91 with 40 seconds left. Look, I hope they pull it out. I hope they can win this series. Oh, that's better. Oh, that made a big difference. Sam, do your parents go running with your dog? My dad does sometimes. QAnon came after the Trump election in 2016. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now I'm so low. I gotta lower the camera. Diva says that QAnon was before Trump. Now I'm confused. Now y'all are confusing me. What came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Why do you feel Buttigieg can't win? Oh, you're talking to somebody else. Do you think there will be a health crisis for Trump during his presidency? I have no idea. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to speculate. I think Buttigieg can win. I think anybody can win if they have the right. If they just hit that the right tone. If they're anybody can win. Diva says I'm 100% positive QAnon was before Trump. All right, Diva's our person of conviction. Roman says, if times were good, people would have voted for more of the same. There was a big shift to the right. Yeah, that's a fair point. Why are Dems addicted to losing? Are they? For the most part, I feel like most elections go like this. Red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. It doesn't really feel like one is like a major loser compared to the other. There's no such thing as electability because you never know how well any candidate will perform on their inherent traits. I kind of agree that there's no such thing as electability. I mean, when Obama won, I'm pretty sure people would have said the same thing. Like, there's no way a black man named Barack can be our president. You know what I mean? And look what happened. Kyle Fishman says nominating females has very little to do with why Dems lost. I'm kind of on that same train. I don't think it's because women were the nominees. Maybe it was because of which women were the nominees, but not simply because of the fact that they were women. PMG says need an inspirational candidate, not aspirational. That's true. It's all about messaging, which Dems just can't seem to get right. It's like college kids struggling to find their clear thesis for the paper. I mean, if you are a Keyes devotee, it's not about any of this. It's about the long-term economy, the short-term economy, foreign policy. You know, it's really not about messaging or, you know, there are keys about the candidates, but they're very hard to turn. They're charisma keys. You know, even though the keys were wrong, I still believe they are probably the most accurate way to look at how elections move and shake. Because people want to sit on CNN or whatever, and even on their YouTube channels and talk about this will win the election, that will win the election, X lost the election, B won the election. It's like most of these things move and shake based off of these really big tectonic movements, the economy, foreign policy, things like that. Abe says, I'm still going to keep track of the keys in future elections. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting way to look at American politics. Much more interesting than like 99% of the way most pontificators look at elections, because they look at it like a horse race. Philip says, Kamala was a double no-go for Republicans, a woman and black. Yeah, but couldn't you use that same logic for Obama? He was a double no-go for Republicans. He was black and had a Arab-sounding name, you know? I mean, half of the Republic, the far right in America, literally were trying to push that he was, an Islamic extremist, Al Qaeda member. You know what I mean? That seems like a double no to me, too. Diego says, I don't think your dad's formula was wrong. I think the calling of the economy keys was wrong because while data said it was a strong economy, people didn't think so. It's that, in my opinion, it's that the metrics that we use to measure the economy aren't as accurate to your average American as they used to be. For example, GDP, right? Now a smaller percentage of Americans own a larger portion of the GDP. So the GDP is not as accurate as it once was to tell if Americans, a wide swath of Americans, are doing well economically. Barack is also a Jewish name. That's true. Kathy says, I don't believe the keys were wrong. There was a particular factors in play. Yeah, I don't necessarily think the keys were wrong either. I think possibly the contest key was called wrong. I think the economic keys are maybe not, the data they're using is not as accurate anymore. And I do think misinformation played a role. Those are my 3 reasons why I think the keys might not have worked this time. That's my 2 cents. That's my 5 cents. Oilers defeat Stars in Game 5 to book their Stanley Cup. I don't really watch hockey. Hockey. Three months to win an election would be tough for anyone, no doubt. Rose says, Sam should consider making a protein powder company. What makes you say that? So I'll call it left-wing soy boys and make it like the juiciest fucking manliest protein powder of all time. That's actually not a bad idea. That's an interesting marketing tactic. Do you think there will ever be a transgender president? That's such a crazy hypothetical. Not in our lifetime, no. I know I just said like anybody can win, it doesn't matter. Transgender, it's still so new. Like I'm saying like if you're black, a woman, gay, those things have settled into our society more than trans people have. I'm not saying they've totally settled in, I'm just saying more than trans. Michael Nightwolf says, I'm not MAGA, but I know many voters who simply disagreed with Kamala, not her race or gender. Yeah, I agree. I believe that to be true. Michael says, first we would probably have to have a gay president, maybe a trans president one day. Maybe one day. I just don't see it happening in our lifetime. When people are struggling, you don't come out with a brat girl, whatever it was. People who are trying to feed their families don't want to hear that BS. Oh, you're telling me that Trump didn't have BS marketing strategies too? I don't buy that. I don't think brat girl was that offensive. And look, I understand. It's hard for me to swallow the pill that, like, I mean, America at the end of the Trump Biden presidency, I mean, had a soaring, raging economy that was only going up and was like the best in the world. I don't buy this whole thing that like so many people were struggling. It's like, and maybe you'll call me some privileged, out of touch bubble lefty, but I definitely acknowledge that inflation was hurting people for sure, but unemployment was super low. And if you look at economic trends of the last 100 years, like this was not like we had a recession in 2008, we weren't anything near that. Jillian says Trump is tanking the economy at warp speed. I have to believe it's intentional. I don't believe it's intentional. I believe it's stupidity and naivete. I think he's trying to run the U.S. government like a sleazy businessman. And I hate to break it to y'all folks, I don't think that's going to work. Vladimir says, I think our politics being this dividedly mainly stems by too many people being liberal or conservative just for its own sake, rather than for what's most pragmatic. I think that's a really good point. I agree with that. People paying hundreds and hundreds in each check for healthcare, it's not complicated. Tell people they'll save $10,000 a year if they pay of their pay by supporting Medicare for all. Well, Bernie has been doing that for a long time. And I think you can argue that the Dems haven't jumped on that train. But this idea that I'm a struggling American, my health bills are piling up, so I vote for Donald Trump is nonsense to me. A whole lot of people were living on the edge. Inflation pushed them over the edge. I'm not denying that inflation was a problem, but Biden and his administration were tackling that problem. Now that tariffs are halted by the court, did Trump just dodge a recession? They're paused. They could still very well his tariffs were halted, and then that halt was paused. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen next. We're still in the same uncertainty as we were a week ago. And look, I don't want to underplay that a lot of Americans are hurting. I guess my point is that the economy was getting better. The Biden administration was taking concrete actions to address a lot of that. And the Trump administration, essentially their economic plan was tariffs. If you look at those two and you think that the Trump is your better option, I'd like to have a conversation with you. Philip H. says, if Trump had to handle what Biden did, inflation would have been 20 to 30% range with no end in sight. That's kind of what I'm saying. Trump almost comes across as Jesus. Like if he's messes up, they believe he'll turn it around in the future. So it's like a religion hailing Trump. That's true. He can do no wrong in the eyes of MAGA. It's either someone else's fault, or even if he did cause it, eventually he'll fix it, or it's a long-term solution to some problem that's been ailing America. Yeah. No matter what he does in the eyes of his true MAGA supporters, he can do no wrong. And that's scary, because if you look at his first term, he didn't do much right. And if you look at this term, he hasn't done much right. Trump did have a good economy before COVID hit. Oh my God. Why are we just wiping COVID off his record? We judge leaders by how they react to crises. Trump, I don't believe, could have handled COVID worse than he did. I believe the way COVID hit America was about as bad as it could have hit America. And that is because of the leadership of people like Donald Trump. I'm not going to just wipe COVID away from his record. Did he cause COVID? No, of course not. No one's saying that he was the reason why COVID happened, but his handling of COVID was atrocious. 1 million Americans died while Trump was president from COVID. Imagine if you change that to a terrorist attack. 1 million Americans died from a terrorist attack. 1 million Americans died in a war in 1 year. People's hair would be on fire from rage. But for some reason, because it's a virus, people want to just excuse Trump. I don't get it. Julian says his handling of COVID was abysmal, but January 6th should have been the end of it. I agree with you, Jillian. Sam, Trump started the COVID lockdowns. What do you mean by started? Like he was the first world leader? But then he backtracked, and for whatever reason, the right wing in America took this as some sort of crusade against their freedoms, and all of that went out the window. So, okay, he started them first, but then his entire party, his entire policy backtracked and tried to treat COVID like some sort of freedom crusade. Diego says January 6th is pretty much the end of it until McCarthy went to Mar-a-Lago. I've said this before. I fully believe that if the Republican Party right after January 6th had completely cut ties with Trump, we would have not seen him win that election. People like McCarthy, right-wing politicians in the House and the Senate are to blame for bringing Trump back from the dead. QAnon has its roots back to the Clintons and Whitewater. Hillary even said she had been a target of far-right conspiracies. QAnon origins even go back to the Bilderberg group. That's interesting. The thing about COVID is, too, if you look at other developed nations, Japan, New Zealand, their death rate was like a fraction of what ours was. Is that just a coincidence? I don't believe so. Have you ever seen Bigfoot, Sam? What about Chupacabra? Give us the dirt. I don't know what Chupacabra is, and I have never seen Bigfoot. Why? Because Bigfoot doesn't exist. President Khalidi says Trump's second presidency shouldn't have been possible constitutionally because he incited violence. Fair point. Keeks? Oh. My dog wanted to come in. Hi, Bubby. Here. He's got a little bed here, but I put the mic stand on it. What's up with you, Bubs? Bigfoot only wore a size 10? Is that true? You mean the man running around pretending like he was Bigfoot only wore a size 10? RFK Jr. said COVID was tailored to kill certain ethnicities. Bro, RFK Jr. is a fucking nut, dude. I don't care what anybody says. That dude is a nut. Keeks, that's not for you. No. He's trying to get my taco plate. All this talk of tacos is making me hungry. Time for lunch. What time is it where you are? Rayist. Look, with the COVID thing, I'm not well versed enough to talk about mask policy or social distancing or shutting down. I don't know. All I know is that our death rate was way too high, higher than most other developed countries, and we're supposed to be the richest, most scientifically advanced country in the world. I put that onus on our leaders, i.e., President Trump. RFK Jr. said diabetics should throw out their insulin and get a health cookbook. He didn't even specifically say type 2 diabetics. He's a nut. He's a nut. It's that simple. I honestly, I was about to say I don't know if he knows the difference between the types of diabetes, but how could he not? That would be crazy. I mean, he's like a 60 plus year old man, right? The crazy thing about RFK Jr. is too, that no one seems to really talk about was like, was he given did Trump give him like a quid pro quo? Like, hey, if you drop out, I will nominate you to my cabinet. Like, how is that kosher for everybody? No one seems to talk about that. I remember when it first happened, some people were mentioning that, but no one talks about that anymore. The fact that he got a rival to drop out because he promised him something. That seems a little fishy to me. RFK Jr. is interesting. That dude ain't interesting. He is not interesting. He's as interesting as a piece of plywood. He's cuckoo. All right, Dennis, good night. Have a good one. Even if Trump weren't the GOP nominee in 24, Dems could still have been trampled because of the deeper forces of disinformation. Yeah, you make a fair point. DOD says, I would bet all the money in my pocket Trump promised RFK Jr. a cabinet position for his support. You know what? I would too, Diego. I would too. Raja says, before COVID, we had other pandemics, bird flu, Zika, H1N1, etc. Yeah, but none of those were as bad as COVID. So, it's kind of hard to compare. Unless you would just want to say, look at the leadership there. Much fewer deaths than COVID. Success? I don't know. The Democrats are really out of touch. Sure, I agree that a lot of Democrats are out of touch, but you're telling me that Trump and MAGA people and Republicans in the House aren't out of touch? They're trying to give tax breaks to the richest people in the world, ignoring the majority of Americans' needs. That's pretty out of touch to me. Kroll says, I do think RFK Jr. actually does believe his beliefs, but I think having an actual healthy individual than some fat lady makes more sense to me, regardless of his views. What about RFK? How do you know that RFK Jr. is a healthy individual? because he's physically fit, that doesn't necessarily prove that he is a healthy individual. This mic is driving me crazy. Who did Sam vote for in 2020? Biden? Like in the general or the primary? In the primary, I think I voted for Elizabeth Warren, honestly. Or maybe even Bernie, 2020. Yeah, one of those two, I believe. I did not vote for Biden in the primary in 2020. Roger says other pandemics weren't as bad because we headed them off before early. I don't know if I could. Maybe they were less severe. Maybe they were, they didn't spread as quickly. But maybe Roger's right. RFK Jr. is healthy. What about the worm in his brain? That's just for starters. Fair point. Having a worm in your brain is not healthy. That's a fact. Philip H. says, I don't care if my airline pilot is buff. I care if they know about planes and how to fly them. RFK Jr. has never flown and does not have a pilot's license. Personally, I'll take the fat lady pilot. I think that's a fair line of logic, honestly. Julian says, I voted for Bernie. Biden wasn't even in my top 10, but I must admit he surpassed my expectations. I agree. He also surpassed my expectations. I was not a Biden fan at all. I don't even know if he was in my top 10 to TBH. Especially when we had that giant field to begin with. I wasn't even thinking about him as, I even liked Andrew Yang more than him probably at that point. What happened to Andrew Yang? He went from like, hey, this guy's running for president. He's saying some interesting things. He's getting a little bit of a backing to like he can't even win an NYC mayor's race. And now he's like starting a third party. What happened? DOD says, RFK Jr. healthy and Trump is 6'3", 225. I weigh 3.5 bills and I bet I look skinnier than Trump. Yeah, he's 6'3", 225. That's like Lamar Jackson's height and weight, the QB for the Baltimore Ravens. You look at Lamar Jackson and you look at Trump and you tell me that they have the same height and weight. I forgot Tulsi was running for the... God, things changed quickly. Tulsi Gabbard went from running for the Democratic nomination to being a fucking MAGA shill. Crazy. Yang is another grifter Ross Perot for a new generation. Yeah, Trump is lying about his height. I think he's 6'2". He's lying about he's lying about both, but he's certainly lying about his weight. I mean, look, okay. Hold on. Easy mana. Let's see if we can get a full body picture of Lamar Jackson. This is Lamar Jackson. Let's see what his weight is and height. 6'2", 205. Okay. They're saying he's 205. And okay, let's say Trump weighs 25 more pounds than Lamar Jackson, right? You're saying this guy has 20 more pounds than this guy? Give me a break. Give me a break. Bernie Sanders is 6 feet tall. Is that true? Maybe this was mostly on the internet, but I vaguely remember some Bernie fans being extremely fond of Tulsi Gabbard. I sort of remember that too. All just because she spoke about regime change wars and once endorsed Bernie. I sort of remember that too, now that you mention it. It's an interesting point. All right, folks. I'm going to sign off for the night. I appreciate every single one of you for hanging out, for chatting. It means a lot to me. Or if you're not chatting, if you're just listening, I appreciate that too. If you're just here, I appreciate you. Good night.